How has living abroad impacted teens today? Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Hedlund, and today I will be talking about my story of moving overseas and how being international can impact teenagers in many ways. Living abroad has shaped me in so many ways and has allowed me to be exposed to many new cultures. However, there are factors which aren't always necessarily talked about when it comes to living abroad, especially for teenagers who are going through so many events during these years of their lives. I wouldn't have gotten to experience these opportunities and experiences, such as going to several international schools, meeting new friends from several countries, and even being exposed to new cultures if I had never lived abroad. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, there are factors which aren't always necessarily talked about, especially when it comes to, for instance, being nervous to fit in, for instance, as teenagers who are moving to new countries for the first time and entering unfamiliar systems. Living abroad has not only allowed me to make friends from several countries, it has even allowed me to understand how the international world works. So what do I mean by the international world? Well, going to several international schools has allowed me to connect with many classmates and friends, and has allowed us to share a similarity in ways to how we have lived abroad and coped with these difficult situations, and so on. Opportunities which I typically enjoy in international schools are international days, which we get to celebrate our cultures and traditions, such as bringing food from our home countries and traditional clothes, and so on. What I'm trying to say is how these opportunities do not only allow you to bond with your friends and classmates by sharing your cultures, yet even allow you to express your own culture in a way as well, which I find extremely important when it comes to moving abroad. Moreover, I've been to the airport for around 1,000 times in my life because I have moved to several countries and have even traveled a lot. I mean, I would wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning to go to the airport if I wanted to. I have also traveled a few times in my life alone, which I have found to be a unique opportunity for me. For instance, this has included to visit my home country and visit my family, yet even visiting my friends who live in different countries. The reason why I wanted to address this is because how grateful I am to have experienced this opportunity of being able to travel alone and visit my friends from several different countries, which some teenagers might not be able to do. So I have discussed the opportunities and experiences that teenagers might get from living abroad. However, there's an important topic which might be prominent in many teenagers when it comes to being international. In my life, as an international student who has lived abroad for her whole life, I have definitely experienced this feeling of being homesick, meaning that at times I can feel quite disconnected from my home country, Sweden, and sometimes wonder how it would be like to move back. For instance, this can be how I at times feel separated from cultural traditions that Swedish teenagers might get to experience, such as not going to the standard school system and not even being surrounded by my home language. This is just one example of many challenges that teenagers might face when it comes to living abroad, which raises to another major point. How does mental health play a major role when it comes to teenagers who live abroad? According to the Raising Children Network, teenagers go through social and cultural changes during these years of their lives. For instance, this can be finding their identity, their passions, and even making new friends. Friends play a major role when it comes to moving abroad, as these are the individuals that teenagers will most likely look up to and even spend time with the most. I mean, in my case, as a 15-year-old teenager, I can definitely agree with this. Having friends has not only allowed me to connect them and relate to them with many stuff, it has even allowed me to share our experiences and similarities of living abroad. For instance, when I moved to Amman, I made many new friends from several different countries. And we were able to share these similarities and differences when it comes to have lived abroad and even going to several international schools. Moreover, as seen in the second image here, this is an example of how my friends and I went on a school trip in France to Chamonix. And this was when we were in the ice glacier. The reason why I decided to show you guys this picture is because this was a unique opportunity for me that I found extremely fun. Anyhow, what I'm trying to say is how grateful I am to have had this experience to go on this unique school trip. And many teenagers might not necessarily be able to go on these school trips, which I found to be extremely grateful and happy of, as just because I went to an international school and was able to connect and bond with my classmates. Here's another example of me and my friends in several different countries as well. Anyhow, I have mentioned the opportunities and experiences that teenagers might deal with when it comes to living abroad, therefore the positive and even challenging aspects. However, as I mentioned earlier, living abroad has become much more common, and there are more families who are moving to several new countries. For instance, according to the Migration Policy Institute, there has been a record of 204 million international migrants in mid-2024. Well, what does this exactly show? As shown in the graph here, there's been a drastic change to the amount of international migrants for around 153.9 million global migrants in comparison from 1990 versus 2024. Not only does it show us how there's been an increase to the amount of international migrants, yet even might predict the amount there will be in the future. You are all probably wondering, Mary, why would you want to address this? If there will be an increase to the amount of international migrants in the future, it is crucial to consider how many more teenagers might live abroad. And this topic of the challenges and experiences that teenagers might go through will be prominent, and how important it is to understand their situations when it comes to dealing with these experiences and opportunities. Moreover, as recorded by an ISC research study, there is an approximate amount of 14,000 English to medium international schools across the globe. That's a lot, right? Not only does it show us how there's so many international schools across the globe, yet even indicates how many teenagers might be going through these similar situations when it comes to going to a new school, for instance, for the first time, or even just dealing with certain experiences when it comes to moving to a country for the first time, and so on. Moreover, it was also recorded that there's been a rise of 18% from the last 5 years to the openings of several international schools. As I mentioned, this definitely shows how many more international schools are open because there's so many more international migrants moving across the globe. Even in Amman, for instance, there are 29 international schools offering several curriculums, such as the IB, the American, the British, and many more, with also offering several instructed languages including English, Arabic, French, and so on. Anyhow, linking back to my main point, there's so many international schools across the globe. I mean, if there's 29 international schools in just one city, try to imagine how all international schools across the globe would look like. That would be a lot. Therefore, I want you all to think about how many teenagers might be going through these situations of experiencing the challenges when it comes to living abroad. As I mentioned, this can include being homesick and even at times feeling left out from their cultural and social identity. I'm extremely grateful to have shared my story of living abroad. And I hope that you all realize that it's important to allow teenagers to open up about these topics, especially as parents or even just family as well. Remember, you're not alone, and there's so many positive aspects to living abroad, and it's normal to experience these challenges of not necessarily fitting in, and so on. Living abroad does not only allow you to be independent, yet even allows you to grow as an individual in many ways. Thank you.